Hello, boys and girls. We're back for the exciting conclusion of our story of Easter. Let's go back to where we stopped. We stopped at a spot that was kind of sad and felt scary, called the darkest day, where they hung Jesus on the cross. This is called the Quiet Cave. Jesus had died. Joseph and Nicodemus were sad. They carefully took Jesus' body down from the cross. They cleaned him, wrapped him in strips of white linen, and carried him to a quiet cave on the hillside. They laid Jesus inside the cave and said goodbye. Before they left, they rolled a big stone over the entrance. This picture. Outside the cave, 2 guards kept watch. The big heavy stone was sealed in place, and for 3 whole days, all was still. But inside the quiet cave, God was working. If you tried to peek inside, you couldn't see anything. If you stood outside and put your ear up to the big stone, you couldn't hear anything. But inside, God was doing something utterly amazing with Jesus. Something only God could do. Jesus waited. The world held its breath and waited for him. Here's your love letter from God. Dear boys and girls, do you like surprises? Inside the quiet cave, I was working on a surprise that no one could imagine. It would be the greatest surprise the world had ever known. Something was happening to Jesus. My son was going to have a brand new life. But for 3 whole days, the world had to wait. Love God. Kind of like we're waiting, boys and girls, to see each other again. Look at these beautiful creatures. In the springtime, we wait, watch caterpillars, and out of those cocoons that they make, they become these beautiful butterflies. Waiting is a good thing. Being patient, I think that was one of our gifts of the Spirit we were doing before we left. Well, here it is, the super surprise. There was something special about the day. The birds lived in the trees above the quiet cave. They knew it was special. They knew when they opened their eyes that morning and saw the sunrise, something was amazing going to happen. The birds could feel an early morning whisper, a song gliding through the trees, and now they could hear it, a whisper that was getting louder. It danced along. It was a name carried on the wind, sailing through the leaves, rushing through the grass. The birds perked up and opened their beaks to join the chorus of all creation, every living thing singing the name above all other names. I bet you're saying it already, boys and girls. Jesus. Jesus is alive. Jesus is alive. The big stone had been moved. The cave was empty. The sun was shining. Jesus, the King of the world, was alive again. The trees clapped their hands. The flowers danced for joy. The birds flew high over the fields and carried the news, the most wonderful news that the world had ever heard. Jesus is alive. And as soon the disciples would know it too. Jesus' mother would know it. One day everyone in the world would know it. And now you know it and can share that good news. Let's hear our last letter from God. Dear boys and girls, can you believe my son Jesus came back to life? Only the King of Kings of the whole world could do that. Jesus is the King of love, the King of hope, and the King of heaven. He wants to be the King of your life too. Would you let him? Jesus, I believe in you. Teach me more about how you want me to live. Thank you for showing me what love looks like. Thank you for dying on the cross and for coming back to life for forgiving me and for showing me the way to heaven. If you just whisper that prayer, boys and girls, share it with your family. You are part of the wonderful news that Jesus is alive. I love you, God. Thank you, God, and thank you for loving us. Here's a letter that's empty, boys and girls. You get to share how you would tell God, thank you for sending Jesus into your life. Maybe you could just show him by sharing your Easter story with your Easter eggs. I bet you've been working on finishing it. We were at the place where Jesus was nailed to the cross, and the soldiers had taken his cloth and were shaking the dice. That was the last egg that you filled with me anyway. You maybe have gone ahead. Have you colored this one yet, where Jesus dies on the cross? This is the cloth egg. This is the one where you have the little piece of cloth. This is where his friends took that special cloth and wrapped him and put him in the tomb. And then they placed the big stone in front of the entrance. So you have an egg with a stone to remind you of that big rock that they put in front. They put that there because they thought people might take his body from it. But we know that he rose. And then, of course, the last page. Have you found the last page yet? It's my favorite one. I color it with markers so it would be really bright. And did you notice there's nothing left to put in the last egg? I wonder if you figured out why. That maybe it's empty because the tomb was empty. Jesus isn't there anymore. He's alive in your hearts, in heaven, sharing his love with the world. Well, boys and girls, he is risen. Happy Easter. If you have a chance, there's a song called Jesus is Alive. I hope you get to share that with your family too. Wishing you all a happy Easter.